welcome guys to another Counter Slam faction focus. Today we're going to be taking a look at Cryx and Mk3, and I brought my friend Thomas on here. It's kind of a new face here. Hopefully get him on the show to play some Cryx sometime against some of those fools who are not playing Cryx as much anymore.
I pity the fool. I pity the fool.
So now, this is obviously a re-record since we got a new microphone. Since the time that we recorded the last time, though, I have actually had a chance to play Cryx quite a bit more. And so I do have, I think, a little bit more of a take on him, so at least I'll be giving some better input, I think, this time. So
We could have just redubbed the last badly in Cantonese like the Hong Kong movies were. So
that would have been awesome. You know, that would have made us unique against everybody else. But so anyway, you guys
killed my teacher. Prepare to die.
Oh no, he didn't. Okay, so the well, when we talk about Cryx, one of the things that we want to talk about is like what is it that makes the faction unique. Obviously, Cryx is the bad guys. We're the ones who, you know, take your undead, we kill you on the field and turn you into one of us. And
think of it as recycling.
Yeah, right. We're the most, you know, globally conscious people, environmentally conscious people. And you know, if you guys like zombies, you like paired up machines and things like that, then this is probably, or even like undead pirates, then this is
we have steam powered zombies.
We do. We have steam powered zombies, and they're awesome. So, and we're getting into a bunch of those. But if you're going to get into the faction, one of the things you should know up advance is some of what our strengths and weaknesses. So, what would you say some of the strengths of Cryx are?
We are masters of the debuff. So whereas a lot of the factions have various things that will make their units stronger, faster, we tend to work to make our opponents weaker, more vulnerable, reducing their armor, sometimes reducing their speed, but mostly armor debuffs. That's a big thing with us. Effectively making our opponents easier to kill.
We do have a bit of auto point damages here and there too, and corrosion tends to be a big selling point for Cryx. So while corrosion itself doesn't tend to do a lot of damage by itself, putting the auto corrosion on things, or continuous corrosion, sorry, it can melt single infantry pretty good. So you can get enough of that onto models, and you can tend to take out stuff pretty quickly. Now we don't tend to have the best armor of all the factions. Actually, probably one of the worst. But we do have decent defense on some things, and some decent defensive tech as well, where most of our buffs come in kind of stealth and concealment and kind of hide in the shadows type thing.
We've also got the fact that a lot of our stuff is cheap, which means that it's sort of like Doritos. Crunch all you want, we'll make more.
We also tend to be faster than everybody else. Cryx Warjacks are generally speed 6 for their heavies, except for their Crabjacks are 5. But overall, I mean, it's hard to think of a caster that we have that's speed 5. I think maybe Gatsby now.
Asphyxious now.
Asphyxious.
Yeah. In all his incarnations, he's down to 5.
Yeah, but I think everybody else is like, I guess Terminus might be 5 too, but I think everybody else is like 6 or higher. So we're pretty quick, but we have to be, because we don't excel at shooting.
No.
But we do excel at getting in and tearing you apart limb from limb, and but we got to get there. And so the way that Private Press does that for us is they give us the things that have great speed. And even with the new Iacos coming out here pretty soon, he also has a huge speed buff during his feats, and a sail for his Warjacks, which makes his army go really, really fast. So you tend to jam people out of zones with Cryx. They do have some decent assassination tech as well, and they're good at, just like I said, just taking things apart limb from limb is what they're good at. So if you kind of like getting in there and beating face, this is probably gonna be the faction for you.
It's not a faction for the weak of heart.
No. A lot of people think that Cryx isn't as strong as some of the other factions. A lot of people are having a hard time figuring out how to play them, but I think that we still have a lot of tech that's very good at getting up the field and not getting knocked off the
We're
field.
not out of the game.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't put that out there for anybody. And so when you're getting into Cryx, one of the things you'll want to take a look at is obviously just getting the new battle box that just released. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the Warcaster first. So the battle box, you get Banewitch Agatha, and you also get a Reaper, you get a Slayer, which I'll put over here, and you get a Arc Node. Oh, that's not
that one there.
That's
Death Ripper.
There we go. Death Ripper. So this is the battle group, and or they call the starter kit. So they also is she the one that comes in the 2-player battle box as well? I believe she is, isn't she?
Don't have the 2-player battle box, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same 2 casters, Maddox and Agatha. But anyway, but this is your core starting group, and this obviously the battle groups that they come with in the battle boxes use up all of the Warcaster's Warjack points. So given the price of the Reaper and the Slayer and the Death Ripper, this is what she can take, and anything else you add on to it is additional points.
So so we get 2 heavy Warjacks and 1, medium Warjack, 1 light one. So effectively, our Helljacks, which are heavy Warjacks, tend to be less expensive than some of our opponents. They definitely have less armor than our opponents, especially Khador, which are brutes. And they don't have as many damage boxes, certainly not as many as Khador, but they're cheaper, they're faster, they get up the field. And they've
got some interesting abilities too. So, well, at least I know the Reaper and the
Reaper's one of my favorites.
Yeah. The Slayer is definitely very basic for Cryx. But so anyway, let's take a look at Banished Agatha. So she has 29 Warjack points, 16 hit boxes, and Focus 7, which is pretty good for an introduction Warcaster. She's Speed 6, Mat 7, Rat 4. She doesn't have a gun. She don't care about all that. Defense 15, Armor 15, which puts a little bit on the squishy side. That's the same stats as Iacos, and I found that to be, once you get them engaged, you better hope that you've won, or you're gonna win this turn.
You better take out what she's engaged, because otherwise there could be some problems.
Yeah, and she's got 1 weapon. It's a range 2, so the big scythe that she's holding, her sickle or whatever. It's called Death Kiss, which is pretty nice. POW 12 on the pound strength 12 on her attack. She does have Dark Shroud, so while models within her melee range, the enemy model suffers -2 armor. So again, more of that debuff coming into play. She also has Soul Taker, which you can tell by the souls coming up through her skirt, so to speak. She does gain models of living enemy models that are destroyed within 2 inches of her. So if they're in Dark Shroud range, or she can hit them, then she gets the soul form if they die. And of course, those soul tokens turn into focus tokens on your next turn, so it gives you a chance to get even more focus than just 7, which she can use to cast her spells with. So that's another thing that Cryx does really well. We take souls and we turn those souls into making our things more powerful.
Yep.
Which is pretty nice. So just kind of a different mechanic. We're not the only faction with souls. I know Scorn does a lot with souls. I'm not sure if a whole lot else does much with souls.
I know of a particular battle engine for minions that does it.
Oh, yes. That's why. I was like, I do have soul tokens with my Legion, but why? I was like, oh, yeah. You're right. So, for the minions. Minions can do a little bit with souls, too. But all right. So, her spells that she has. She's got, Agatha has called Ghost Walk is the first one.
That's really useful.
Yeah, Ghost Walk. A number of our casters have Ghost Walk, and this is...
giving a model or unit ghostly allows them to... move through terrain without penalty, even through obstructions, going through walls, through buildings, and also cannot be targeted by free strikes.
Yes.
And that's huge with the Mark 3 rear bonus, where it used to be in Mark 2 you had to start in the rear arc to get the bonus. Now you can just move into the rear arc and get it, and with Ghostly you can now move in and not worry about taking a free strike.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I played against someone who had the... Scott, I was playing against him. He had the new, not vultures. What are those things called? The Bane. What are those things called?
The Carrion Thralls.
Carrion Thralls. That's what they are. And he would put Ghostly on the Ghost Walk on those guys. And I was able to run them in.
Yeah, because they're flying. They don't worry about the terrain, but they do take free strikes.
Yes.
So
that was really a really good job, because then he was able to really jam me up for 2 turns with those stupid things. So. So pretty cool. So Ghost Walk, definitely a great spell. Hellfire costs 3, range 10, POW 14. Models disabled by Hellfire can't make tough rolls, and if they're boxed, then they're removed from play. So POW 14 is a really good spell, especially for only 3 focus.
Yeah.
And with her ability to get more focus through souls.
It's a pretty solid ranged attack.
Yeah, and that'll take out most infantry, and you can put some pretty good damage on Warjacks too with that type of.
And Warcasters.
Yeah, absolutely. Then she's got a new spell called Hellrot, Target Warjack in this spellcaster's battle group gains +2 armor and retaliation. So with retaliation, whenever he's damaged on the last round, during your maintenance phase, it can advance up to 3 inches and make 1 basic melee attack, which is pretty good for things, especially like the Reaper and her group, or
it's kind of like vengeance for a Warjack.
Exactly.
That's pretty spiffy.
Yeah. So imagine that on your Death Jack, your Nightmare, which we'll get into.
But since we tend to have pretty poor armor, a +2 armor buff is really nice.
It makes you feel like you're one of the other guys. Ha! My Jack is arm 19 as well. Let's see how you do against that.
I might actually survive a round.
Yeah. So there's that. No, it's a great ability too to be able to have it like almost like a vengeance move and attack, because that's what makes the the Bane Knights so great.
Yep.
You can get a lot done. And you can get things closer. Again, it's about speed. It's about getting in your opponent's face. She's got Parasite, another common spell in our faction. If you target an enemy model, costs 3. It's only range 8, but
model or unit
suffers -3 armor, and the spellcaster gains 1 armor. So it's an upkeep spell. You can upkeep that every turn. So if you put it on a Warjack or a whole unit, especially units like Mana War and things like that, which greatly benefit from being shield wall and things, it's
good against that. Against other things that are somewhat weaker in armor, about average, it drops them down to the point that they're very vulnerable to blast damage.
Yes, and that's Parasite's a fantastic spell. It just it helps to just. It's one of our more powerful, I think, debuffs that's out there that if you can get it on somebody.
Doesn't make them easier to hit, but boy, when you hit,
they feel a lot more. Yeah. Then her last spell costs 1. It's a self spell control area. It says place the spellcaster anywhere completely within 3 inches of its current location, and it can only be cast once per activation. So that's kind of nice for her to be able to, like, if you do get her engaged and you charge something, hit it, then you can vanish, either get behind something and take advantage of the extra +2 to hit, which makes her like a mat 9.
Yep. Yeah, that's fantastic.
With Dark Shroud, she's about 14, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's just terrific for her. Because with 3 inches of extra movement, that can be able to definitely change angles on things, get her into places that she wants to be, or get her out of places that she doesn't want to be.
Yes. So you can do this, before you move, after you move, before you attack, after you attack.
It's only once per round, though, but
you can figure out when you want to do it and when it'll benefit you the most. But it gives you a lot more playability, and it probably makes her a little bit more forgiving than most of the casters too. Because if you can sit on one during her activation, if you need to get her out of the way, she might be able to pull it off. So there's that, and then of course her feat.
Her feat is pretty nice.
It's called Shadowfall. This is friendly faction models or units currently in Agathea's control range are affected by Ghost Walk, and while in Agathea's control range, friendly faction models gain stealth. Additionally, when a Warjack in Agathea's battle group ends its activation under control range, you can immediately place that model anywhere completely within 3 inches of its location, and it lasts for 1 round. So, so everything you have in your control area gets stealth and ghostly. So, and you don't have to spend any focus to cast those spells, which is nice. Well, she doesn't have any stealth spells anyway, so but that's a great way to, again, keep her alive. I've played against her a few times where I probably could have shot her to death if she didn't pop her feet and sit on that.
If you're playing against Signar, which is like the archenemy of Cryx, that's really handy for that first turn to move up, and now they are going to have to get within 5 inches if they want to be able to hit you, and usually for that first turn they're not going to be able to get close enough for that. Doesn't help as much against Legion, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's just,
but Ghostly lets him move up, especially with the terrain you tend to play with now with the new Steamroller, where there's more terrain on the field. Ghostly is more useful than ever for being able to move up the field. So all the more important to get her entire army farther up the field.
Yeah, a lot of armies struggle with taking on stealth, and plus being able to charge things, hit them, and then jump back 3 inches. During the feat 2 with stealth can help give you a little bit more cover, a little bit more tech against ranged lists, or even getting behind things and sort of engaging things from behind. So now they got to decide if they're going to charge and take a free strike or have to turn and fight that jack. So those are really good spells as well. So she's pretty solid. I think when she first came out, I was a little confused on how to play her, but now that I've played her a few times, she's a lot of fun.
Yep,
she's really good. I think her and the new Iacos are both fantastic. Casters. They're fun. They're different than everybody else. So All right, so let's take a look at some Warjacks. Let's take a look at the Slayer first. Now, a lot of our jacks that look similar to the Slayer here, I would say the Slayer is the most basic of our jacks.
Right, that's the basic chassis upon which most of our other Helljacks are built.
Yeah, and he's 10 points, which is super cheap. He's got a decent number of hitboxes. He is speed 6. He's a mat 7, which is, again, really good for Warjacks. And he's a rat 5, which doesn't matter, he doesn't have any guns. Defense 13, armor 17, so a little hard to hit, pretty easy to damage compared to most other Warjacks out there. And he's got 2 Death Claws that are POW 16s each, and then he's got the Tusks, which are POW 12s. And he's got 2 abilities. First one is a combo strike, so when he goes to make his attacks, he can use up all of his initial attacks to basically hit you with both hands, and that ends up being a POW 22.
Yeah, so that's really good if you're going up against those big Khador heavy jacks.
Yeah, and if you can get the charge off and you're still sitting on a couple focus, that combo strike can do a lot of damage. When your dice plus 2 or 3 and then you're rolling 3 dice on top of it, that's pretty awesome. He also has hard head, which a number of our jacks have as well. This is fairly common for our jacks that have the tusks and things like that. It says this model can add this weapon's power to its headbutt and slam power attack roll, so it can kind of, it can hit you. That's pretty cool. So it turns it into POW 12s. So instead of POW 10s, which 2 points is 2 points.
Exactly.
Help a lot. So again, he's pretty basic, but he's he's cheap and he's good, and you can spam him and frustrate your opponent.
Yeah, he's got enough defense that a lot of the enemy infantry may sometimes have a hard time hitting him. He's got enough armor that, again, a lot of their basic infantry may have a hard time hurting him. He's not going to last toe-to-toe against the other heavy jacks. He's got to get that first strike in to be able to get stuff done.
I would love to play a Slayer spam with Asphyxius 3 with with having unyielding and things like that. So fun.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
That's
gonna definitely makes them worth way more points. All right, so next thing we got here is the Reaper, the other heavy jack, and the Reaper is one of those models that I'm really hoping now that he's in the battle box that people will start taking it more, because he's a great jack. He's 13 points, same number of hitboxes as the Slayer, but he's got a little bit more different stuff, or he's got a little different stuff going on. First things first, he's mat 7, rat 5 is still 13, 17 on defense and armor, so all that's the same. But he does have a harpoon, which you can see on his left arm, which is a range 8 and a power 12. And he has the Hell Driver, which is his little
the big
claw
spike on the right arm.
Yeah, and it's got a 2-inch reach, which is awesome. Which for Warjacks, it's always
2-inch melee range is fantastic.
It's a POW 16 as well, and his tusks are POW 12, just like the Slayer. Now he also has hard head, so he gets the same to add the power to the headbutt and slam power. His Hell Driver has sustained attack, so when he hits a model, as long as he hits, then every attack you buy after that, he just automatically hits. You don't have to. You have to roll
with the Hell Driver. Yep.
He just keeps like. Ugh.
That's fantastic when you're going up against things that have high defense, where you're thinking like, I'm going to have to boost every attack to have a chance of hitting. It's like you just need to boost the first attack, and after that, you've got it locked in. Everything else is auto hit.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
A little plug for the War Machine Tactics. When the Reaper goes to hit something, he like rears back. He's just like, boom, with that thing, and it's just like, ooh. I mean, infantry just explode. It's awesome. But one of the cool things about taking him is not just the 2-inch reach, but also he has this cool ability with his harpoon.
The harpoon is fantastic.
He can drag models that he damages to him, as long as it's a large base or smaller. Right. So when he hits, if it doesn't die,
sorry, no battle engine.
Yeah, I can't drag colossals. I always thought that if you can't harpoon them, he should get dragged to them. That would be awesome. That's.
Well, the little goblins do that.
The goblins do that. Yeah. See, why not? It's pretty cool. I always thought Iacos was going to have that too, but he didn't. So anyway, so you drag it in, and once you drag the model in, you get a free melee attack against it, and then you can continue to buy melee attacks after that, which is really
fantastic. So he can move up 6 inches, fires harpoon 8 inches, and drag them in. So that gives him a 14-inch threat range, which is substantial.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah, so being able to having that type of threat range and still being able to do a range attack is really awesome.
And whatever survives him is now has been brought in up to 8 inches closer to you, so your other guys can finish him off if he's still standing.
Yeah, if they're still alive, you need to get Agatha, or you need to get the Slayer or the Death Ripper in there. Yeah, then it's really great. I'm like I said, I'm really happy that he's in the battle box because I've been playing him for years, and I really feel like he was underutilized. So now that people are really
the only thing he doesn't have is an open fist, so he can't throw models like the Slayer can. But honestly, I'm not complaining. 13 points. That's 13 points well spent.
Yeah. When you're dragging models to you can either drag him in or you can throw him out. You can't do both.
I mean, the assassination factor with him is fantastic.
Well, I say you can't do both, but Malice can do both. So, well, when you're not doing that stuff. Anyway, so that is the Reaper. Reaper, again, really great at 13 points. Then the last Jack in her battle group that she gets in her little box is the Death Ripper. And the Death Ripper is all of our... One of the things that Cryx really excels into is having fairly cheap arc nodes. And arc nodes meaning your caster can cast spells through them as long as they're not engaged and as long as they're in our control area. So you can get a really good distance on a spell as long as you have one of those little arc nodes with you. And they really encourage you to take them because of the spells that we have that are range 8 and 10 that you don't want to get your caster in there when she's like 15.
This enormously adds to the survivability of our warcasters to be able to operate from a distance like that. The advantage to that is tremendous. It allows us to be able to affect the battlefield virtually anywhere that we have an arc node, and do so without the direct threat to our warcaster. Because our warcasters don't tend to be as survivable once you close with us. Not all of it. So
yeah, and so he's got the variations of the arc nodes. We'll get into some of the other ones here in a second, but this guy here, the Death Ripper, they have almost about half their damage grid is full, maybe, because it's a little more than half of the damage grid. So enough hit points.
It's a bone jack. It's not expected to have a whole lot of armor, a whole lot of damage boxes, but it's 6 points.
Yeah, he's 6 points, which is really cheap. Great price runner. I mean, some solos are like 6 points in other factions. So this is a Warjack. His defense 14, armor 14. Not too bad. He's mat 5, speed 7. Our arc nodes are fast too. This one's really great.
Yeah, so he can zip up the field.
And one of the things that makes the Death Ripper unique amongst his arc node brothers is that he has sustained attack as well, just like the Reaper. So when he goes hit something, he doesn't have to buy it to hit after he hits the first time. So that's really nice for the Death Ripper as well.
Yeah, with a mat of 5, he's probably going to have to boost that first one, but now he's got it's
up to 2
automatic
more
hits for the other chops.
POW 12s, and if he's near Agatha, it's another, it becomes POW 14. So it's really pretty good. So and that's the battle box. So
it's solid.
It is solid. It's I haven't played against enough of the battle boxes to know if it's like one of the better ones, but it is great. I mean, it works well. The Reaper does good. The Slayer is cheap and awesome. You got an arc node. I mean, you have a battle box with 2 heavies and a light, which most of them only have like 1 heavy and a couple lights. Or I think one of the only ones with 2 heavies is the Khador one.
Well, keep in mind that some of the other factions, their lights will have as much or more armor than our heavy Warjacks, but still, I think this is a really solid battle box, combined with Agatha's abilities and spells. Yes, I think it works very, very well.
Oh yeah, so she's awesome. So, and with Parasite again, another great spell. So let's take a look at. You want to do Warjacks or do casters?
Let's do Warcasters. So let's take a look at my first love, which was Iron Lich Asphyxious.
All right, Asphyxious 1. So he is. What we're going to do is we're going to show you guys what once you get the battle box, like how you can expand. What you should probably look at getting. I think Asphyxious 1 is a great caster for beginners. He is very forgiving, I think, as a caster, especially with his feet. He's the main bad guy in the storyline, so that again makes him really good or interesting to play. So you're playing as the main bad guy in this one. Well, one of the main bad guys, anyway.
Remember, the bad guys have the cool outfits.
We do. So Asphyxious, because he's kind of the leader, he's got 7 focus. He's got 18 hit boxes, which is pretty good. He is speed 5, like we mentioned before, mat 6, which doesn't seem super impressive at first. He's got defense 15, armor 16. His soul splitter is a 2-inch reach. Obviously, it's a long staff, and it's a POW 15. And of course, he's undead. He's got 28 jack points. He also has the Cold Soul Taker ability. And he also has sustained attack, which, again, like the Reaper and the Death Ripper. So when he hits something, he doesn't have to buy to hit anymore. And, at POW 15s, it's actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But on top of that, he also, in his spells, he's got Parasite, which can boost that up to 18, theoretically, and just auto-hitting if he's kept it on his target. So that's pretty good.
He's got that, and he has the spell Scything Touch. Which gives Dark Shroud to a model. So now you're talking about a 5-point armor swing.
Wow, that makes him effective POW 20.
Right. That means that if Asphyxious has to step in and get the job done, he will.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. He's got... Okay, so those are two of his spells, really good ones. He has Spectral Leech, which is a new spell. If you hit a model within 10 inches, it says remove D3 focus or Fury points from the target model hit by a Spectral Leech. So,
on the surface, it sounds strange because it doesn't do any damage, but when you think about it, you're removing a D3 focus of Fury points. So from the Warcasters that can normally spend a focus to reduce damage by 5, suddenly when they're holding on to 1 or 2 focus, suddenly they can't do that. This is for the Warlocks that like to transfer the damage to their Warbeast, and they're holding on to 1 or 2 Fury for that. Suddenly they can't do it. That is tremendous.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't. Once you get enough games in, you see. I've had so many games where I've had to hit the person's Warcaster 8 times just to get him to where he starts taking damage because they keep spending focus to negate 5 damage every time, and I can't just do the damage. And once you had that happen enough times, you can really see the benefit of having this spell. So, and it's like I said, it's a new spell for us, and it's a pretty neat one. He has Hellfire, which is what Agatha also had, the range 10 POW 14. He has a spell called Breath of Corruption. It's a 3-inch AoE ring within 8 inches of the spell, or
creates a cloud.
Yes, it creates a cloud, and models hit suffer a POW 12 corrosion damage roll. And
that's a nice thing because it's all models within that. It isn't like just the main model hit and then blast damage for the others. Everyone takes POW 12 damage, and those are boostable.
Yes, and the clouds stay in effect for one turn or for 1 round, and if models enter it, they take 1 point of corrosion damage automatically. So kind of the bane of single wound infantry's existence.
Yep.
It costs 3, but you can cast it multiple times, which is kind of nice. Yes. So you can have multiple clouds out there. They also has Teleport, which is his last spell, and Teleport basically says you can be placed anywhere completely within 6 inches of its current location, and then your activation ends. So,
and that's one of the things that's helped to keep Asphyxious unliving for all these centuries.
Yeah, he's like, ugh, and then he goes, see ya. Circle players know how to do that. That's what Circle does all the time. Which he came from Circle, so that's actually nice.
Yeah, that's why he's got that split spear.
Yeah. So he's again, Asphyxious, great caster. Let's take a look at his feat real quick. He has it's called Consuming Blight. And enemy models currently in his control range suffer an unboostable POW 5 damage roll, which doesn't sound that great, but I think that's so you don't just murder everything in his control area.
Right.
Say higher than that.
He says, but combine that with Parasite on something.
Yes.
This is,
now that's a POW 8, which I mean, POW 7 blasts can kill infantry. So that's pretty cool. It says, and Asphyxious gains up to 7 focus points, and he can't have more than his.
And that's huge. So that's the time that he decides that he wants to get the job done himself for his assassination. So that means either casting his attack spells, Hellfire, Breath of Corruption, usually through an arc node, or he travels up and gets the job done himself with his spear.
Yeah. So. Yeah, he's great. He's one of those. He's almost like a power solo. Like if your whole army gets wiped out, and you still have Asphyxious on the board, you still have a chance. And that's what's great about Asphyxious. So actually, it's kind of good about a lot of our casters here. We're going to take a look at. So that was Asphyxious. We can.
Yep. So now we can talk about his protege, which is Warwitch Deneghra.
Yes, and she was the original battle box caster for Cryx before Agatha came out, in Mark II anyway. And she's probably one of the most powerful casters in the game.
She still is.
People would still argue that because it's not. She's one of those casters you almost don't want to see across the table. You're like, I could not play this and go find something else, or I could get a root canal. That would probably feel about the same, And Warwitch Deneghra, she's amazing. She has 16 hit boxes, 28 Warjack points. She speeds 7, so she's pretty fast. She's only mat 5 and rat 4, which she has 1 melee attack, which is a 2-inch. Her staff thing she's got as well.
Yep.
POW 12. She has defense 16, which makes her pretty survivable, as well as armor 14. Not great, but she does have stealth, which can
and parry.
And parry. Yes, so that's one of those new little symbols I gotta make sure I look out for. So parry means she doesn't take free strikes, so she can move through things, and at her speed 7, that's pretty awesome. She does have the Cull Soul Taker ability as well, so she gets souls within things that die within 2 inches of her. She also has Shadow Bind, which is common amongst the War Witches. When you hit a model with this weapon, they suffer Shadow Bind on her weapon's called Sliver. And when they get hit, basically you suffer -3 defense, and you can't move except on your next activation except to turn to change facing. So,
yeah, -3 defense, and can't advance. That's pretty substantial. You can rotate, but that's it.
Now, Warjacks and casters can shake that effect, but infantry and everything else cannot. And it's a great ability. She's a focus 7, so she's got she is more of a spell casty kind of person. She really shouldn't be in there in melee.
Unlike her master Asphyxius, if she has to get involved in melee, you're desperate.
Yeah. So. She definitely likes to debuff things and help her army more than probably most of our other casters.
She is the debuff queen.
Yes. So let's take a look at some of her spells. She has Crippling Grasp, which is a cost of 3, range 8. Target model/unit suffers -2 speed, strength, defense, and armor. And Crippling Grasp can be cast only once per activation. It is an upkeepable spell.
The last part is gone, but because
they did change it.
But since it's an upkeep, you normally can't cast it more than once anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
it's pretty uncommon. She would have to, cast it on something, kill it, and then cast it on something else. So,
or you could upkeep it theoretically on a model, have something kill those models, and when it's gone, she can cast on something else.
Yeah,
have some movement. So it's pretty good. She could do that before, so I'm glad they took that back. She has an ability called Dark Seduction, which costs 4. This is the only spell that confuses me with her. It's a range of 8, costs 4. Take control of target enemy, non-warcaster, non-warlock warrior model. You can immediately make a full advance with that enemy model, followed by a basic attack. Then it expires. Enemy model cannot be targeted by free strikes, and Dark Seduction can be cast once per activation, and it can only be affected by Dark Seduction once per turn.
So 4 points, I can take control of an enemy trooper or solo and have him make an attack. Or sometimes you could use it to move him into a critical position, turn to face it, the rear towards you, so you have a better chance of taking him out. It's a lot of points for that. Unless it's somebody that hits really hard and he happens to be close enough towards the enemy warcaster, not seeing it as useful that much. But I don't know. I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah. It's interesting. Then she's got Ghost Walk again, great spell. Get your stuff past things. She has Parasite as well, common spell, like I said, amongst Cryx. She has a spell called Scourge, which costs 4, and it's a range 8, power
That's
13.
her money spell.
Pretty good. It's an offensive spell, obviously. But models hit by this attack become knocked down. Now they don't have to be directly hit; they just have to be hit, which is good. And that's another 4 costing spell, so it's expensive, but if you can pull it off, you can usually knock down like key targets, and then that's all you need to do. She also has a spell, Spray 8, costs 2, called Venom. That's POW 10. It causes continuous corrosion damage, so that's pretty nice. And it's kind of a good spell that she can kind of use on our arc nodes to hit things.
It's a great way to be able to clear infantry.
It's cheap. For 2, she can cast 3 times. With Magic 7, she's going to hit almost everything she's trying to go for, unless you really need to boost that really high defense target or something. But POW 10 isn't super damaging, but again, you put that corrosion on enough infantry, they will just melt in front of you. So it's pretty nice. She loves her arc nodes. Oh man, she really loves arc nodes.
And then her feet.
Her feet. Again, this is probably why she's considered to be one of the best casters in the game.
The Withering.
The Withering. So enemy models currently in her control area, control range, suffer -2 speed, strength, mat, rat, defense, and armor, and cannot run, charge, or make power attacks or special attacks, and it lasts for 1 round. So she just shuts down the other person's army. She just shuts down. She makes, if you want to try anything to see how it really should be doing on the table, you take Deneghra, because she can make anything work. It doesn't matter what you have. Like, you're like, oh, this model hasn't really done much for me. Take Deneghra. It works. That's how you get it to work. And she's just great. I mean, stealth, she gets up the table, she can hide, she can spell sling at people. She's just a jack of all trades. The only thing she suffers a little bit at there is just getting in there with the defense or her melee attacks. But if you do have like crippling grasp or parasite or things on it, she can get some work done herself. It's just you gotta be careful with her though. She's kind of fragile.
Yep.
So defense 16 is nice. Armor 14, that can be a little rough.
Yeah, once you hit her, she's gonna cry.
I've had that happen a few times. All right, so
and my recent favorite, this is Lich Lord Venethrax.
Venethrax. Now, this is going to be probably the last caster we really go into detail about for this faction focus. We might do an additional one later with some of the other casters too. Some of you guys might want to know about Terminus and Iacos and all these other guys. Well, Iacos we have a model review on. You can check that out on our channel. But some of the other casters you might want to look at if you're getting into tournaments and things like that. But I would think that, honestly, most of these casters you could probably look at for a tournament and do okay with. Now, most War Machine armies, all War Machine armies, have a Warjack caster. And Venethrax is a little bit more than just a Warjack caster because he also tends to go really good against hordes.
Yes.
That's... Hordes especially, he does amazing against.
From the fluff, that's his thing.
War Machine, he's still powerful against. Hordes, he's amazing against. And that's really his specialty. He's designed to go hunt the dragons, so to speak. That's what he wants to do. So he does it well. He is one of the... Because he's a Lich Lord, he's going to have a high focus stat. He's got focus 7. He has 18 hitboxes. Speed 6, still pretty quick. Mat 8, fantastic mat. No guns, so it doesn't matter. Defense 15, armor 17. And his sword has a 2-inch reach and his pound strength 15, which is pretty good. I mean, you may think that's a little weak for a Warjack caster like him, but he's got some cool abilities to go along with it. So the first one being Dismember, which says when he hits a War Beast with a melee attack, you roll an additional dice.
Yes.
And that's why they couldn't make him any more than that, because that extra dice is ridiculous.
Yeah. So
he just murders everything. He has Field Marshal Countercharge. Now, Field Marshal basically means that all of your Warjacks get a specific ability as long as they're with him and in his control range. It says Warjacks in this model. Warjacks in this model.
Actually, they just have to be in his battle group.
That's right. They don't have to be. That's right.
That's the interesting part.
Yeah, I thought they used to be. You had to be in control. I don't know.
Maybe in Mark II.
Yeah, it might have been something they changed because I keep going back to that. Warjacks' model's battle group gain countercharge. So when an enemy model advances and ends its movement within 6 inches of a model in his battle group, they can basically charge that model and get a free attack against it, which can shut down a lot of models or kill a lot of models that are, it sort of scares your opponent into getting closer. Like, do I want that to die or do I want that to die? They have to figure out what they want to take a hit. Because again, once our Warjacks hit you, that can leave a mark. So, and especially on a charge, you're rolling 3 dice for damage. So that's great. So he gives that. That's the one thing that makes him sort of part of what makes him a great Warjack caster. It makes him really fat. His stuff fast getting to the field. He does have Soul Taker as well, just like all the other models we've looked at. And he has Eruption of Ash. So when he destroys a model, I don't think it has to be a living model. Just if a model is boxed by an attack made with this weapon, center a 3-inch AoE cloud effect on the boxed model, and then remove that model from play. If the AoE is a hazard that remains in play for 1 round. Any models in the AoE when it was put into play hit or suffer a POW 12
any
fire
enemy
damage
models.
Roll. Yes, enemy models. Sorry, enemy models. Suffer a POW 12 fire damage roll. Enemy models entering or ending their activation in the AoE suffer a POW 12 fire damage roll. And Eruption of Ash damage rolls cannot be boosted, so it's just POW 12 damage roll, but it's still great.
Some people on the Cryx forums have complained because the model is removed from play, so he won't be able to call the soul. But any enemy models that are killed by the eruption of ash, as long as they're within 2 inches of him, he'll collect those souls.
Yeah.
And so if he times it right, if he's got some infantry, he can kill a couple of them and be able to create some clouds to be able to give himself some blocking line of sight.
Yeah, I mean, if he's surrounded by, single wound infantry models, he can just kill the one in the middle and, get that cloud out there. Now he's protected because people can't see him, and and he gets a couple souls from the other things that die, which is kind of nice.
Yep.
So he's pretty good. Again, he's pretty good. Let's take a look at his spells. So he has a spell called Blood Rain, which is a cost 3, range 8. Blood Rain causes corrosion damage. It's POW 12, and models hit suffer the continuous corrosion effect. So that's kind of what you really use it for, is to put corrosion on things. It costs 3. You can cast it twice with them. It's kind of nice.
Decent, particularly against single wound infantry, where even if you don't kill them initially with the blast damage, they're corroded, and so they have a 2/3 chance of dying off next round.
He has a spell called Deadweight, which
Deadweight is terrific.
I've seen one other caster have. I can't remember. I think. Oh yeah, it's that new scoring caster. So when Deadweight destroys an enemy living or undead model, choose an enemy model within 2 inches of it. The chosen model must forfeit either its normal movement or its combat action during its activation.
That is terrific to shut down an enemy heavy.
Yes. You kill a cheap infantry model on the table. Oh, hey, you have to be 2 inches of that guy. Suck it. And of course, with the arc nodes, that makes you can get even closer, and it's pretty nice. He has a spell called Lamentation, which is an awesome spell against a lot of casters, especially those casters who like to cast spells. So it costs 3, and it's a control, and it's a self, and it is upkeepable. It says when an enemy model casts a spell while in his control range, double the cost of the spell. Additionally, enemy models must pay double to upkeep spells on models or units within the spell's control range.
And now animi are spells.
Yes.
So that is terrific. So before in Mark II, he had choice of different upkeeps that he would be running, Dragon Slayer or Lamentation. Now he only has one upkeep, but that's the one he's going to start off with and keep throughout the game.
Yes, that is awesome. So, you used to always have to kind of bounce between that and Dragon Slayer, and it was always kind of, which one do I want, And then you're like, okay, I'm swapping, and you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Now Lamentation is amazing, and
yes,
he's got these next 2 spells are honestly what makes him so good. First one is Mortality.
Mortality is fantastic.
Range 10, cost 3. One you're gonna be casting through your arc node a ton.
Model/unit,
and it suffer -2 defense and armor and lose tough, and cannot have damage removed from them. Mortality lasts for 1 round, so it's not an upkeep spell, but you can cast it. He can cast it 3 times, and hit things. And now your entire enemy's front lines are just -2 defense and armor, and that's what Cryx loves to hear.
Yep. I mean, it's a beautiful setup.
But what if, let's say your Arcno does it, but now your models have to get into the fight, and what if they don't have the speed? Oh, wait, we have terminal velocity, so here we go. So terminal velocity is this. One of our other casters, Mort Never, used to have this spell, and then they transferred over to him. And this is what makes him such a great caster, great Warjack caster. So terminal velocity costs 3, which is pretty cheap. It's in your control area, it's a self. And it lasts for a turn. It says Warjacks in this spellcaster's battle group that are currently in his control range can charge or make power attacks without spending focus and gain boosted melee attack rolls against living models. When an affected model targets a living model with a charge or a slam power attack, it gains +2 inches of movement, and it lasts 1 turn. So
again, that whole thing about decent against War Machine, fantastic against Hordes.
Yes.
And this really illustrates it. So our models are screaming up the table. Since our Warjacks are getting up there, getting boosted attack rolls against them, so they're not going to be missing. Not having to spend focus for the charge or the slam, so that's saving them the focus that they need. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it makes us so much more efficient, and that's really kind of what he does. He makes your stuff efficient and just strong, and he just makes your opponent wish you'd never taken him. With between Lamentation and Mortality and Deadweight, oh my! This is one of those guys that's just going to tick your opponent off.
And then his feet.
Oh, his feet. That's right. He has a feat too.
He does have a feat.
Believe it or not. It's called Vengeance of the Dragon Father. I'm already sold. Enemy models cannot allocate focus points or leech fury points from models in Venethrax's control range.
Now again, decent against War Machine because the Warjacks will still get their power up, If you're granting them focus from other means, like Warwitch Sirens, things like that, that doesn't affect that. But the Warcaster can't allocate focus to them, so they can't operate at maximum efficiency. But it's the Fury thing that's just so huge.
Yes. So let's say your opponent comes up and has a bunch of beasts come up and attack you, and they're all running kind of hot, but it's enough for your opponent to get his Fury back. You catch these guys in his feet range, and now they can't leech those off, and they have a much higher chance of frenzying.
Right.
And when they frenzy, they charge the nearest model, whatever. But what's funny is that they can frenzy, and then your stuff can countercharge them once they've got done moving, so you get a chance to get in there and get another shot in there.
Plus, the Warlock won't be able to leech the Fury, and so will not have, unless he kept Fury from the previous round, he may be running naked.
Yeah, or have to cut himself for the damage.
No, because that's considered leeching.
Oh, cutting yourself for damage? And
Yes, that's considered leeching.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. They can't even do that.
Okay, well, yeah. So yeah, suck it, Hordes. Scoring Legion and Trolls.
I think the next thing we should cover should be some of our solos, because in terms of solos, this is going to be one of the first things to buy.
Sure, we can talk about the attachments. Let's do that. So the attachments are, well, this one's in particular is a solo. He's, and this guy is great. He's cheap. He's 4 points, 5 hit boxes. Matt and Rat 3. Who cares? If you're attacking with him, you're doing it wrong. He's got speed 6, defense 14, armor 12. His claw's like a POW 6. Yeah, it's just not worth it. Of course, your caster can only have one attachment per, so you got to choose between this guy and this other group we're going to show you here in a second. But he has a magic ability of 6, and he can do, which basically means like his kind of spell ability. And
he can choose between
Darkfire, which is a range 10 POW 12 magic attack,
which is decent.
And if he destroys a model with it, if it's a living model, he gets the soul for it.
Yeah, and he does have Call Souls, so he can be able to gather souls of living enemy models that die within 2 inches of him.
And he can spend those soul tokens to boost his hit or damage rolls, including the spells that he's casting. Yep. Which is another ability, which he has called Spell Slave. And his model must be in his Warcaster's control range to make the Spell Slave action. When it does, cast one of the spells on its Warcaster's card with a cost of 3 or less. This model cannot cast upkeep spells or spells with a range of control or self. When casting offensive spells, Spell Slave is a magic attack. Use this model's magic ability score when determining the attack. So
you can do things like the Hellfire or the Blood Rain or the Deadweight by himself. So those are really handy. But yes, Mortality, there's money.
Yeah.
So
you can do that.
In that regard, that's a big focus efficiency for our Warcaster, because that's one more spell that we don't have to pay focus for. Plus the ability to do it at a distance and its own activation. So that can be tremendous.
And if you can kill something with the Hellfire first, and then get that soul, or Darkfire, whatever, you get the soul for it, and then you want to cast a really great spell you need to make sure you hit. You can spend that soul to boost the damage or attack roll, and that's really good too. So.
Yeah. We can talk about our other attachment, the alternative.
Yeah, which is a unit, which is pretty rare to see in a unit attachment. That's pretty good.
They're pretty spiffy.
They are called the Wither Shadow Combine. And Wither Shadow Combine, of course, have 3 models there. And they have, the first guy is called Malavus. Hey, at least it's not Convergence, okay? I'd be over here for 20 minutes trying to figure
Mr. Mixelplick, I have no consonants.
Yeah.
No vowels. Yes.
So these guys all have the same basic stats. They're speed 5, mat 7, rat 4, defense 13, armor 15, POW 12s on their melee attacks, half-inch reach. And they cost 9 points. They are attached, like we mentioned before. They had
so you can pick between them or this. You can't have both.
So Malavus, all 3 of these guys have a Darkfire spell, which is the range 10 POW 12. If you destroy a living model, you get the soul for it, which they can use to boost later. The Malavus has the Spell Slave action, much like the Scarlux are all, so you can cast a caster's spell, which is kind of nice. And of course, they all have Soul Taker, Soul Cage as well. So if a living model dies within 2 inches, they get souls too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What else has it got?
You have a couple of nice abilities with Admonia.
Yes. So yeah, we'll look at right. Sorry, go ahead.
Both Edmonia, she allows you to upkeep one spell for free.
Very good.
Okay. And she can now grant a model/unit, I believe, as his magical attacks, magic weapon on their attacks.
And that's really good, too.
That can be really handy. If your opponent is throwing incorporeal models at you,
Scorn! Cryx! I don't know if anybody else... Well, it's only for one turn, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it won't matter much against the Protector caster that can do that, but that's his feat. But yeah, so no, but magic weapons are great. Cryx really suffered a lot in Mark II because they didn't have much in the way of magic weapons, so I was really happy to see that they got this. Of course, now more of our units have magic weapons, so not quite as bad as it was, but at least now you get all your bases covered. Then, of course, you got Tremulous, who's the guy with the little guy on his... It's kind of hard to see. He's got the little guy on next to his feet, but it's actually a puppet.
Yep, little skeletal puppet.
And, of course, he has the spell of Puppet Master. So, Puppet Master is a range 10 spell. When it targets an enemy model unit, it's a magic attack. You can have one affected model, re-roll one attack or damage roll, and then Puppet Master expires, and it lasts for 1 round.
And this is the one that, while you can cast it on opponent, you'd see most people usually doing it on their own because, well, you don't have to make an attack roll to do it. And this allows you to helpfully overcome a bad dice roll on either attack or really poor damage roll.
Yeah, we all have that one where it's like, man, all I gotta do is roll anything but snake eyes. Ooh, and that's all she wrote. And then you're like, well, never mind. But if you have the Wither Shadow Combine, you can be like, aha, we're rolling that. And people are like, oh, sad face.